Hi, I'm Paul Edwards, author of the Mourner's Woods books, and first and foremost, a monster kid. Tonight I'm reading Doctor Who Weekly, issue number 12 from 1980. I thought you might enjoy flipping through this vintage monster magazine with me. Together we can see what kinds of monster kid goodness is in here. Doctor Who Weekly magazine, issue number 12 from January 2nd, 1980. For only 12 pence. What could be more beautiful than a Dalek in flames on the front cover? Now, I'm not 100% sure which episode this particular image is from, but if I had to guess, I would guess the last Jon Pertwee Dalek episode, which was called Death to the Daleks, because they destroyed tons of Daleks in that episode. They just went to town with it. Appropriately enough, the episode was called Death to the Daleks. This is the one with the Exelon City, and they just had a party destroying Daleks in that episode. So my guess would be that this is from Death to the Daleks. But you can ask a Dalek yourself if you win a talking Dalek. 30 of them are to be won. So that's pretty good. Plus K9 in a complete new comic strip adventure. And the Krynoids. All right, let's check it out. Oh, Lalla Ward, who played Romana number 2. I'm trying to think now. This is 1980, so I think she was still playing Romana at the time. January of 1980. I think she was still in the role at the time that this was printed. Okay, so we're starting out with a Doctor Who comic strip. City of the Damned. Yikes. Oh no, not the blood bug. Yikes. I'm glad they didn't get too bogged down in trying to replicate Tom Baker's scarf. Yep, and of course it's to be continued in the next issue. Remember, this is a weekly magazine, not a monthly. So they didn't have to give you a whole lot because you are going to get more next week. And that's how they kept you buying it. Okay, 30 talking Daleks to be won. What do they say? Attack, attack, attack. Sounds like a Dalek. You will obey. Yep, that's pretty on brand. Exterminate, of course. What are your orders? Yep, that's Dalek dialogue, all right. Ooh, the Krynoids. I liked this episode. The Seeds of Doom. This was a 6-part Tom Baker story. And it was about plant monsters. And if you're already familiar with that and think that you know it all, then let me tell you something you may not know. The humanoid form of Krynoid here, look real close. This is an old costume from Claws of Axos, which was a Jon Pertwee Doctor story, a 3rd Doctor story from his 2nd season. And they just painted it green to make it into a tenderly plant monster. But now that I say that, if you're familiar with Claws of Axos, you're like, oh yeah, just make that red again and it looks like an Axon monster. When the Krynoid got bigger, it was off the rails. Did you like the stop-motion animation version of the gigantic Krynoid when it was as big as the mansion? I thought that was done pretty good. Pretty good for a TV series of the 70s. Who cares? Here's some Whovian fans. The original run of Doctor Who, classic Doctor Who, in Great Britain, it was thought of mostly as a children's show. They didn't tell us that when they exported it to the United States and we started watching it on public television here in the United States in the 70s. We just knew it was a science fiction show. We didn't think of it especially as a children's show. It was family friendly, but we didn't really think of it as a children's thing. And when I started seeing written on Doctor Who merchandise that was created in Great Britain, like on the back of the Doctor Who novels, under the category of literature, it would say children's. We would be like, what? Because we were in high school watching these things. So, I don't know. Maybe we're less mature on this side of the pond. Crazy caption contest. Of course, this is from Horror of Fang Rock. What's Ruben the Rutan saying here? You decide what he's saying. Here's last week's winner. Don't look now, Doctor, but that's a Cyberman climbing up your scarf. All right, that's a little funny. Oh, you can win £5 if yours is the funniest. That's good. All right, Tales from the TARDIS. This is not really a Doctor Who story. This is a comic version of classic science fiction stories that they figured Doctor Who fans would like. A lot of it was H.G. Wells. And of course, here's the Invisible Man. Yep. But that dovetails nicely into my audience, which is monster fans, because of course, the Invisible Man. Yep. I like how they go out of their way to not make the actresses from the movie the basis for the models that they're drawing here, because they don't want to get sued. They were just saying, oh, well, we just based ours on the book, which is in the public domain. But if they drew them like the actors and actresses from the movie, then Universal could say, hey, give us some money. Next week, the grim secret of the Invisible Man revealed. They're already plugging next week's issue. We're not that far into it, and we're almost already done. A letter from the Doctor. I'll save you the trouble. I read the letter from the Doctor. He says, now that Christmas is over, you're celebrating New Year's, but New Year's doesn't mean that much when you're a time traveler. And then he says, also, there are advantages to being as old as I am. Just imagine the number of birthday presents you can amass when you're a 750-year-old Time Lord. Should be YOU''. Take that, Doctor Who. Also, the Doctor's age really seems to be a shifting goalpost, because in the Patrick Troughton episodes, he puts his age, the first time he ever gives his age is in a Patrick Troughton episode, and he gives it as like 420 or something. Next thing you know, Tom Baker is saying that he's 749, 750, and so forth. I'm not sure how he lived 300 years in the episodes that we saw. There's not such a big gap in the continuity. And of course, in the modern Doctor Who, he's over 1,000 years old. I think that Christopher Eccleston's Doctor started at like 1,200 or something. I'm not 100% sure. Now it's certainly over 1,000. I'm not sure if Eccleston's Doctor started at 1,000 or not. Oh, they're revisiting past episodes here. The Dalek invasion of Earth. This was the second Dalek story. This was a big deal, and this was where we wound up saying goodbye to Susan, the Doctor's granddaughter. I love this picture. I've seen this picture before. There's this one, and they took some comparable ones with the Cybermen in Patrick Troughton's era, out on the streets of London. They were really good. Even the Dalek doesn't want to go into the water in the Thames. Well, next week, part 2. Of course, it's giving you the whole synopsis for the story, which is great because this was 1980. You didn't have access to home media unless you happen to have seen this episode, 16 years previously. Then this was probably the best you were going to do with finding out what had happened in it. As of the recording of this video, Carol Ann Ford is still alive. The doctor's granddaughter, Susan. Now, here's a comic strip that's just devoted to K9. It's a K9 adventure. You got him, K9. That was a short adventure. This one is not to be continued. They actually wrapped the whole story up. Marvel Winter Specials, okay. All right. What do we got on the back cover here? All right. All right, we had some pretty good Doctor Who content. It's not a long publication, but remember, this magazine was weekly, not monthly. So this only had to tide you over for a few days until the next one hit the shelves. I say it's pretty good. I'll be looking for more of these. Meanwhile, if you're a fan of vintage horror and classic monsters, check out my book series, the Mourner's Woods books. Basically, I write books for people who love monster movies. I'll drop a link to my books in the description for this video. Thanks for spending some time with me going through Doctor Who Weekly, issue number 12. I'll see you in Mourner's Woods.